Well, welcome to this edition of Qatsyr Harvest. We are continuing our investigation into one of the very last of the prophets, Yoel, whose essay on what Israel and the world should expect as we approach the last days and ultimately the return of Yahweh and his beloved son, Dod. These are the insights that he has shared with us. We have, as you can see, Leah here with us. I think Wookie is also in position. You know, Wookie, when he is in Leah's lap, has a tendency to do an entire show. So we may get a major contribution out of the Wook yet. So as we return to Yoel, again, Yoel is a prophet most don't even consider. I was drawn to him initially because I was compelled to negate Peter's claims regarding the ripoff of Shabuah as Pentecost in Acts 2. And it's grotesquely inappropriate what he had to say. He misappropriated and misquoted Yoel to claim that the yibber-yabbering that was happening amongst people in Jerusalem was evidence of the birth of the church and therefore a fulfillment of Shabuah as Pentecost.
Wait a minute. Did you just say that a bunch of babbling started the Catholic Church? Or
Yes,
the church?
yes.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense, actually.
Yes, the first day of the Christian era and the birth of their church is celebrated because of babbling. They and the babbling is quite curious because it's not really clear if the babblers were able to babble in various different languages that they didn't know, or if those listening to the babblers were able to hear what they were saying in their native language, such that they could understand it in their language. So it might have been the intellect of the people that were listening, or it might have been the babbling of the babblers. We really don't know. But what we do know, there was no Pentecost. There was no birth of a church. And the prophet Yoel was speaking of the last days and not of a time 2,000 years ago. But now that we're here, boy, are we learning things. This is a marvelous insight into the time of the harvest. And there's 3 harvests overall. One has already transpired. It was just shy of 2,000 years ago when Dod fulfilled Pesach and Matzah. It led to the harvest of Bikurim, of firstborn children, which is a barley harvest, symbolized by barley anyways, that time of year. And then that leads to Shabuah, which is a Bikurim harvest, but it is of mature grain, both of Israelites and Yehudim, and it occurs just 11 months from now. The 22nd of September, the 22nd of May of 2026, which will commence the time of Yaakov's trouble. So, Leah, do you have your bag packed?
What bag? You don't need a bag.
Oh, that's true. Don't need a bag.
Bag of what?
Yeah, we don't probably won't.
You're
even,
born naked, you leave naked.
Yeah, that is correct. I don't think you're going to need any clothes. You're going to be
No,
able to wear your best outfit. Well, actually, we won't have physical bodies unless we choose to have them, but we will not have them as we leave this planet and enter through the 4th, 5th, and 6th and into the 7th dimension. We'll only have them if we choose to come back and spend time here in 3D. So it's going to be a marvelous time. That'll be the 22nd of May of 2026, 7 years before the family reunion and the great homecoming. And the third and final harvest is Towrah, which will transpire 24 September of 2033, with both an ingathering of Israelites at that time on a Friday evening, and then Saturday there will be the sacrifice of Yada Yahowah for the benefit of the remnant of Israel. So this will be the timeline that we're talking about at this point. And therefore, it is appropriate for Yoel to speak of these things. And he says the following: choose to gather the family for a harvest. A kaf. And it's a kaf. So bring the family together for this ingathering. Isn't that lovely? You have decided to be a community set apart as special and unique. Kadesh Ka'al. You, as the prominent and mature, want to be collected and withdrawn. Well, this could be either Shabuah or Towrah or both. And it's a marvelous expression of what is going to happen. That is the most exciting days between now and Dod's return are these two harvests. Shabuah, which is 11 months from now, and then we have in 99 months from now, Towrah. One being a harvest of prominent and mature grain, which would be consistent with the last line there, Kabatz Zaken. Zaken speaks of more mature and prominent people. So that would certainly fit. But, also Towrah is going to be an extraordinary time. Towrah is going to be comprised, that ingathering is going to be comprised of the best of Yisrael that survives the time of Yaakov's troubles. So those who have missed the Shabuah harvest, but over the next 7 years during the time of Yaakov's troubles, choose to recognize Yahweh by name, Dod as his son, and accept the terms and conditions of the Bereth covenant and attend the Moed Mikre as they are explained by Yahweh and will be explained again by both Elia and Yada during this time as they speak from the Temple Mount. Well, they're going to be the extraordinary individuals at the uppermost branch, and that branch that was cut away, representing Yisrael and Yehudim at that time. And then they will all come back. We will all come back to witness the sacrifice of the Adam Parah. Well, Elia and I were already going to be there. I'm kind of important in that. I don't think of myself as really important.
You're on the menu, honey.
But most days. But, on that one, I'm actually on the menu. So I'm certain that I'm going to be there. Because,
along with 8 others.
Yeah, because, there's 8 that's going to come back from when you read the testimony regarding the Shabuah harvest. There are 8 individuals that will come back and support Yada, who is the Zeroah cultivating that harvest between then and the fulfillment of Towrah.
Yeah, we have a name for this team now.
We do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The wedding planners.
The wedding planners. The reason that's appropriate as wedding planners is because I'm trying to make a long story short here, but the Adam Parah, who is the red heifer, is actually the fruitful man of the earth who is productive, and he is not a red cow. He is it's not a very nice thing to say about me anyway, if I might be a few pounds overweight. I happen to be the Adam Parah, known as the red heifer, and that sacrifice will transpire on the Shabat of 24th of September of 2033, year 6000 Yah, 10 days before Dod returns. And the purpose is explained in the book of Numbers, where the red heifer is presented in Numbers 19. It's the red heifer that is responsible for cleansing and preparing the adulterous woman that has been Yisrael. This is the mortal remnant of Yisrael now gathered all around Mount Moriah, who will be prepared to be betrothed, as the story is told in Numbers 5, to their king, who is Dod, who is returning on Yom Kippurim. So,
who is the bridegroom king?
Yeah. So the 8 that come back could well be the wedding planners, is the reason they have chosen that name. So choose to gather the family. This would be the covenant family for the harvest. It is only covenant members who will attend the harvest. You have decided to be a community set apart and who is special and unique. The family of God is set apart, which means they are not religious. They are not political. The first step to God is walking away from religion. You, as prominent and mature, want to be collected and withdrawn. This would fit both Shabuah, which it fits perfectly because it's a harvest of mature grain, and also Towrah, which is an ingathering of ripe olives, and therefore would fit as well. So you have chosen to assemble the children, including the infants who are nursing. Reason that this is insightful is that while the Shabuah harvest is I think spoken of in the first sentence with the mature individuals because it's mature grain, the Towrah harvest is of babies, and as it relates to the covenant, the most mature of these would be someone who on the morning after the Shabuah harvest says, gosh, I remember there was those guys, they were associated with Yada Yah, and they had the YAHOWAH blog, and they said that this was going to happen on this day, and sure enough, it happened. I think I'd better start reading and figure out what I need to do to make that next harvest, because they told us there would be a next one. Now, I'm not sure how well that's going to get you along if you're a goy at that point, but it's not going to hurt. But if you're a Yehud, that's the perfect time to read. And at that moment, the moment that you would make that decision, that's how old you're going to be in your covenant relationship. So the most mature person will be an infant. They'll be, well, essentially 7 years old at this time. And I don't think that's going to be a significant number of those harvested. I think that it's going to be
a few here and there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a result of what Elia and I do to encourage them to participate during the 3.5 years we're there. And so rather than a significant number of the Towrah harvest being 7 years old or anything close to it, I think the majority are going to be no older than 3.5 and even less than that. So,
and by that time, the political and military situation here on planet Earth will get so bad or so chaotic that people will be very much looking forward to leaving this place.
Well, I think you're going to have three things that will be simultaneous, maybe four. We'll have complete economic collapse.
Absolutely.
The United States is so close to that now that any kind of a bad hiccup.
Many countries are.
Yeah, it's
Russia, China.
I don't know if Russia's all that shape, but certainly the United States the debt of Russia is not that great. The reason the United States is that BRICS has continued to blossom, and now the BRICS group, which is designed to do a singular thing, which is to replace the dollar as the reserve currency for international trade. While the United States represents less than 4% of the population of the world, trying to cling to that status, BRICS as a group represents 55% of the population, more than 10 times. And while the United States plus the European Union, and it's really not fair to contribute all of the G7 members, because most of the G7 now are trying to do their own deal where the euro becomes the international reserve currency. So you're really looking at the United States GDP compared to the BRICS GDP, and the United States GDP is about half of the BRICS GDP. So the United States has essentially lost its standing as reserve currency. Without the reserve currency, the United States can't finance its debt. No one will acquire it. I think the largest acquisition of U.S. debt is Japan now, because China has been a seller, and they have far less than $1 trillion. And between China and Japan, the two largest, it's about 1.3, 1.4 trillion against 40 trillion, which means the vast majority of the U.S. debt is actually owned by the Fed, which means it's the illusion of money. They created the illusion of money to fund the debt, creating inflation in the process. So you're going to have economic chaos. The Trump tariffs are economic chaos. And in addition to economic chaos, you're going to have world war. The Russian-Ukraine conflict is likely to continue to the point where it becomes world war. The Israeli-Iranian conflict is likely to continue to spiral out of control. You've got the Pakistani-Indian conflict that is likely to continue to be a mess. You have a likelihood of China and the United States getting into a tussle of some sort, maybe over Taiwan. It's just so many things that are a problem. You got Europe claiming that they want to really go to war against Russia because the Ukraine war at this point is lost. And then you have the war that God cares the most about, which is the next Alaska flood is going to be 1,000 times worse than the previous one. And we're going to witness upwards of, several million jihadists flood into Israel. The prophets say it's far more than can be counted. It's like a flood, a
black
tsunami,
cloud.
A black cloud rolling over the hills. And so it's going to be grievous. And so you're going to have that problem. You'll have world war and a jihadi war that will be 1,000 times worse than 10/7 in Israel, and total economic collapse around the world. And then you're going to have all manner of geological and climactic issues that will both be man-made and natural. They'll be going on at the same time. Death will be exceedingly common. So it's going to be a horrible time, and you're going to have politicians like Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump is the closest the planet has ever seen to the persona that Christians are anticipating as their Antichrist. And so it's just going to be a horrible situation. Anyway, you're going to have the mature that are going to be gathered for the harvest as part of that family who are set apart. And then you're going to see this assemblage of children, including the infants who are nursing, the very recently added to the covenant family. And this is all in anticipation that they're going to come back and then witness in the sky seats, the sky boxes, if you will, the ultimate wedding. I mean, you have this group that is going to be the wedding planners, and the wedding is between a restored adulterous woman of Israel and the ultimate bridegroom, who is God's son, Dod, the returning king. So it says the bridegroom is being brought out of his room, and the bride from her bridal chamber. The bride is the remnant of Israel. So this is really a beautifully stated. It's something that you wouldn't have any ideas to what the specifics are, but it is detailed and accurate. You have a harvest that is of family members who would be considered mature and who are definitely set apart and unique. These are the covenant members today and those who join the covenant over the next 11 months. Then you're going to have an ingathering that's going to be of infants who are in these children who are much younger in their covenant understanding, and that's the second. And then the third is that the bridegroom is going to be brought out. That's Dod, and the bride from the bridal chamber would be the restored remnant of Israel who benefit from the sacrifice of the red heifer. So it is now or never, and never is a very long time. So stop what you're doing, pay attention, and return to YAHOWAH before it is, of course, too late. The reference to a limited diet that was mentioned earlier is either suggestive of not consuming what the rest of the world is devouring, or, as I have mentioned previously, there is no actual menu designated for Kippurim, as Yah was providing a feast for us, or it could also be addressing these terrible famines which are going to ravage the world at this time. So if you're going to go hungry, it might as well be with a purpose in mind. Now, weeping, which is addressed throughout this prophecy, is so is joy, is evocative of the trials of Yehudim and in Jerusalem. The Torahless one is going to become more powerful. The closest that we have witnessed to someone fitting that role again is Donald Trump. I've never seen anyone who is as vicious, who is as maniacal, who is as duplicitous as Donald Trump. He has, then the emperors and kings and pharaohs of old all pretended and acted as they were gods. Well, that is Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And he is about to betray
The
Israel.
chosen one.
He announced 2 weeks ago that he is now advocating for a Palestinian state and has established the gang of three that will be imposing it. And then he has announced today that he's going to tell Netanyahu the war in Gaza is over. And that is going to be igniting the Islamic rage against Israel because they know that they won. Alaska flood prevailed. Israel lost. The Muslims won. Hamas stays in power. A fake Palestinian state is carved out of the heart of Israel. The next Alaska flood comes from inside Israel, in addition from all of her borders. So this is what we have looking to, unfortunately, look forward to. So there'll be lots of gnashing of teeth. And the mourning is also in reference to Yom Kippurim, the great day of Yah's return, also known as the day of mourning. And the reason for that is that Yahweh explains this through the prophet Zechariah when he says that you're going to look up and I'm going to be accompanied by the one whom you've pierced, and you're going to mourn for him as you would mourn for a firstborn, because he is the firstborn of Yahweh. So the other part of this is Israel has been estranged from Yahweh for 3,470 years. And to think of all that time of separation and all the anguish that the Jews have.
It will dawn on them all at one time.
Yeah.
And it will buckle.
Yeah,
It's actually long overdue. And I don't doubt there will be a dry eye in the place. It is a bittersweet love story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you realize that God has been so good to them and made all of this so clear to them, and they were so obnoxious toward him and told him to go away, to shut up. They never wanted to hear from him and see him again. And then they created all these religions to create a fake God, that they empowered rabbis to antagonize God. It's going to be tremendous sadness that they've done this for over nearly 4 millennia without relenting. And that's going to bring tears of sadness and of joy. So they will mourn father and son, their return, as one would mourn for a firstborn now found. Now, as we read these celebratory declarations, we are drawn back 2,700 years ago to the divorce pronouncement between Yisrael and Yahweh. You know where that divorce pronouncement was made, Leah?
Well, there was one made in Hezekiah. It's like, you're not my children anymore.
No,
but there's another one in Numbers.
Nope.
No?
Nope, Hosea.
Oh.
The book of Hosea.
Okay. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the book of
I'm
Hosea.
getting my H's all messed up.
Yeah, the book of Hosea is where Yahweh says, I'm divorcing you.
Yeah.
And I'm divorcing you for religious infidelity. And you've chased after
your paramours.
False gods. There still are chasing after false gods. They've got Hashem and Adonai and G-D, but there's no Yahweh in their lives. So they've written the real God out of their lives, and they're still have this religion chasing after gods that they have made in their own image. And
Actually,
God
we're
says,
chasing after rabbis.
yeah, God says that I'm divorcing you. You are no longer my children either. So it's a complete separation.
Yeah.
He didn't say that the divorce would last forever, but he said it would last until you change. It is shub for shub or no shub for you. You must change or I'm not coming back. And that's the role that I've been asked to play on Yahowah's and Dod's and Yisrael's behalf, is to rectify this ongoing estrangement.
If I may,
Mm-hmm.
why would a man, any moral man, take back a woman who's had many paramours without cleaning up her act? Would he not be a fool?
Well, that's the whole purpose of Numbers 5, and how the Numbers 5 procedure is provided by the sacrifice of the Adamah Parah, the red heifer, in Numbers 19. And it's interesting. It's going to be Eliah that'll be the master of ceremonies doing this, because he has experience roasting bulls in the past and excoriating religion and politics from his people. And he worked beautifully with Yahowah, who ignited the flames, as he will do once again. But it is true that the adulterous woman must be cleansed before she can be, Yisrael can be betrothed to
because she's filthy.
Yeah. So here we are, 2,700 years since the divorce. The divorce was pronounced in the book of Hosea. And the thing that Israel just doesn't get because of their corruption, they do not know that they are Torahless. No. Because they think that they study the Torah, and the Torah is their big deal. And I saw a post, I don't know if it was on Facebook or on X, and this wall of the Talmud, and there was this complaint that people think that they know the Torah, and here's this wall of books that said they probably read part of one chapter of one of these books, and there's hundreds of them that comprise the Talmud. And the yeshiva students and Jews all study the Talmud. I mean, that's what they study.
And call it Torah.
And they call it Torah. They study the Talmud and they call it Torah. They ripped off Yahweh's name. And then they call it law, Jewish law, when they redefine Torah, which actually means teaching and guidance. And so the statement in Hosea is that you have been destroyed. You have destroyed yourself because of your ignorance. And because you have forgotten my Torah guidance, I'm going to forget your children. Because they prefer the Talmud, the Mishnah, and the Zohar, and all of their other religious trash. So while it was for religious infidelity was the reason for the divorce, and it was demonstrated by having Hosea, the prophet, suffer through a marriage to a religious prostitute, which should have given Israel a clue as to the fact that they were being divorced for having been religious, and that they are, therefore, that religious prostitute. So they are the adulterous woman of Numbers 5. The irreconcilable differences which disunited brothers and separated them from God were acknowledged in Hosea 2. And truthfully, with only a few brief harmonious moments in between, this had been all festering since the Exodus. And the Exodus was horrendous. So now, as Yahowah promised in Hosea 2:23, we are witnessing the final reconciliation of this fractured family, which is what Yoel is addressing here. And just as the divorce played out in stages, such is the case with the process of reconciliation that is foretold in Yoel 2:16. As we know, there are two upcoming harvests, Shabu and Towrah, prior to the pronouncement of the resolution during this final gathering on Kippurim that is facilitated by the sacrifice of the Adam of Parah on Towrah, on this Saturday, the Shabat of Towrah, which all leads to sukkah, to shelters, to the wedding canopy, if you will, the wedding booth. And since every statement was scribed in first or third person volition throughout, using the imperative or juice of moods, everyone in attendance will have chosen to answer Yahweh's invitation to meet, and will have done so in the affirmative. If you have not, you will not. And by will not, over. Goodbye. You're gone. Well, no goodbye. You're not even there to hear it. The symbolic language, because we're going back to Eden, of course, with a wedding canopy for the bride and bridegroom. But we are headed back to Eden, and there's no religion allowed in Eden. So the world's going to be scrubbed of all religious influences.
So if I get this right, because you use a lot of words, the guy sitting there in that position, the host, is the last chance for romance.
What was that now? The host?
The Adam of Parah
Mm-hmm.
will be Israel's last chance for romance. You want in the covenant, there's one way in.
Well,
at first it was the king.
Yes and no. The last opportunity into the covenant will be the true harvest, at least prior to the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
The attendees at the wedding, as I understand this final remnant of Yisrael, they don't know Yahweh at all. They don't know anything really about the covenant. If they knew anything about the covenant and Yahweh and the Moed Mikre, they had made the Towrah harvest. They didn't. So the Towrah harvest was the preceding evening. This is the next morning. They didn't all of a sudden get smart and say, "Oh wow, let's accept Yahweh. Let's accept Dod as our Messiah and our King. Let's celebrate the Moed Mikre. Let's accept the terms and conditions of the covenant. Here we are." No. Those who are part of this remnant, who Yahweh brings, and he speaks of this in multiple places, but who he brings into Yisrael and to Jerusalem, to the Temple Mount, they are gathered there because they are no longer religious. They are no longer political. They are no longer antagonistic to God. They're at least receptive to what is transpiring. So they can they can benefit from the red heifer. But the purging flames and the cleansing waters and ash of the sacrifice of the red heifer cleanses these people of their prior religious and political guilt. Mm-hmm. So they are now mortal but perfect
and able to meet the bride.
So there is no religious stigma or political stigma associated with them anymore, and therefore they're prepared to attend this wedding. They're prepared to enter the millennial celebration of Eden. And our job thereafter is going to teach them so that they choose to be covenant, so they'll have the capacity to be covenant and become eternal and perfected and immortal and all of these things, and empowered and enriched by God. But at that point, they're strictly going to be mortal and cleansed sufficiently to witness. And boy, you witness the homecoming of Yahweh and Dod's coming back as brilliant as the sun. He is Elyon. He is as God in their presence. He is the King of eternity. And you have this magnificent show you have just witnessed on Towrah. You see the waters that are cascading off of the Temple Mount. You've seen the fire that has devoured everyone that has been in pursuit of Yehudim and of Yisrael. And they're all gone, and that the earth behind them now is transformed into the Garden of Eden. I think at that point, God would have your undivided attention, and you'd be prone to listen to what he and these teachers that he's going to provide have to say. So it'll be a spectacular period. But they'll have to grow into the covenant. So here we have both literal and symbolic language that speaks of these harvests, of the family reunions and of the marriage. Two of the final four mikre, the invitations to meet, as you know, we've just shared. One is a Qatsyr, a harvest. The other is a lakat, which is a gleaning. They are both kodesh, set apart, for the kadash, set apart. Those uniquely special among us who have chosen to be set apart from the family of man unto the family of God. And during the first harvest of the next two, first harvest was Bikurim, was fulfilled 3,000 years or 2,000 years ago. But the next harvest, 11 months from now, is Shabuah. And it gathers in the Zaken, the prominent and mature among the covenant family. The second gleaning, Towrah, is 88 months thereafter, such that those brought on this day will be spiritual. They'll be children. They're just going to be infants, essentially young adolescents. And you notice it's 88 months from Shabuah to Towrah, 89 months from where we are right now, because it's only 1 month between where we are now and in Shabuah. Excuse me, there's 11 months between now and Shabuah, and a grand total of 99 between now and Towrah. So 88 is the correct number from Shabuah to Towrah. They just have your bearings here on time. Now, the bridegroom who is emerging at this time is Dowd. He's representing Yahowah during this celebration of reconciliation with the bride is Yisrael, the individuals who engage and endure with God on Yom Kippurim. His arrival is denoted by Yatza, which reminds us that Yisrael's long exodus away from Yahowah is finally over. And during Dowd's return, he will be bringing some of heaven with him to earth as the celebrants of the reconciliation of his relationship with Yisrael. And that will be those that were gathered in during the Shabuah and the Towrah ingatherings. And the bride will be escorted to the ultimate
so basically he's bringing his side of the family.
Yeah,
okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's going to be this lovely chuppah, which is the bridal tent, which is as symbolic as it could possibly be of what? What is the bridal tent chuppah symbolic of? Sukkah shelters.
Yep.
Where we camp out with God forevermore, but also of the Bereth covenant marriage now being consummated.
Whoop, whoop.
So there is far more to Dowd, of course, than serving as the groom on behalf of the reconciled people. He's also our savior. So Yoel is encouraging Israelites to make the connection between the reconciliation of the relationship and their readmittance into the home of the covenant and the Messiah sacrifice, which will have made it possible for those who are part of the covenant and have benefited from Shabuah and Towrah, and those now who are perfected and escorted into the chuppah of Sukkah following Dowd's return as the bridegroom will have this opportunity to capitalize on what Dowd has fulfilled. And Pesach, Matzah, and Bakodim. It's very different than what he's doing versus what I'm doing, in the sense that what he did, he was the only eyewitness that spoke of it 1,000 years, of course, before he fulfilled it. And his people denied him for 2,000 years of what he had accomplished. But it's a different level of contribution, because when he opened the door to life, it was for all time. on Pesach, when he took away our guilt to perfect us on Matzah, it was forevermore, so that we could be eternal children in God's family. What I'm doing as the red heifer on Towrah cleanses the idolatrous woman of Israel, so she's prepared for the wedding and can enter sukkah. It's a big deal, but it gets them in the door.
It's a ticket into the door.
It is. It's a ticket into the door, and then you have the opportunity to accept what Dode has fulfilled. And the Dode's the guy. I don't want to make anybody think that I'm a big deal. Dode is the big deal. He is the greater luminary. He is the king. He is our savior. He is the firstborn son of God. And all the rest of us are in a position to serve him as he serves on behalf of Yahowah. All right, the text continues in the witness. For the purpose of understanding and making connections between the portico colonnade leading to the temple and approaching the altar and the significance, the priests will weep on their own accord. They are serving Yahowah, and they will say, you have emphatically chosen to do as we have requested and demonstrate compassion and mercy by sparing and providing deliverance for your people, Yahowah. And do not allow your property, which was offered as an inheritance, to become contemptible and dishonored as an object of scorn, which is jeopardized, simply a slogan to determine who controls it among foreign people and nations.
Ooh.
Why should they constantly say among the people, where is their God? Yeah, well, Yahweh's God, Joel 2:17. Yeah, there's a whole lot here to unpack.
Oh, that is like, how do you even unpack that?
Well,
It is like reading Yisrael's personal
diary.
hidden diary.
So here we go. We're going to unpack it the best we can. All right, because what does it begin with? It begins with the operative word for understanding, bien. Bien is to make the connections necessary between things, between the facts that are available, such that you can comprehend.
Lay's favorite word.
Bien. It is my favorite word because I think knowing is an exemplary pursuit, but nothing trumps understanding. And understanding is the product of coming to know and then contemplating what you know so that you find the common denominator. So if you've assessed the probabilities and that you can make reasoned and rational connections between things. In these books that I have written, for example, we're now covering this one, which is Qatsyr Harvest. And that's an 825-page presentation of just 2 of the 7 Moed Mikra. So there's one for the first 3, the 3 that Dode fulfilled, Pesach, Matz, and Bekurim. One for these 2, which are the 2 that I'm responsible for fulfilling, Shabuah and Teruah, and another for the last 2, which Dode and Yahowah fulfill, of Kippurim and Sukkah. And my excitement in life is really coming to know as much as you can about these things so that you can make the connections to derive insights. And in a book like just this one book, there's probably, in the 800 pages, there's probably 250 profound insights that no one has considered previously. And that's was one of 35 books. So, collectively, there are easily 10,000 insights that are profound. And those insights are all derived the same way, by making connections between the things that God has said. So he wants you to make the connection now between the portico colonnade leading to the temple and approaching the altar and the implications of the sacrifice. Well, this is exceedingly pertinent to me because while Elia and I are on the Temple Mount, it will be cleansed of the disgraceful dome of the hoofy print, called the Dome of the Rock, where the flying ass jumped up through heaven to visit, jumped up through hell to visit Allah, and the Mosque of Defiance, that Alaska Mosque that caused the previous invasion of Israel. They will be gone. And there will be a replica, or even the original tent of the Restoring Witness is going to be erected on the Temple Mount, and it's going to have its proper orientation towards the east, which means the opening is going to face the Mount of Olives. That's important because the Mount of Olives rises above Mount Moriah, which means we will have stadium seating to witness what is transpiring there. And this talks about the portico colonnade that leads to the temple and approaches the altar, and for the implications of the sacrifice. This is rather personal to me because I'm going to be the fella in that altar after Satan bludgeons me and takes my life, and my wife has decided she's going to.
It's going to infuriate me.
Yeah, she's going to attack him after that, and whatever you do, you're more than welcome to him. But his last act of defiance will be to beat me to death. I have to have the 7 Ruach, who are, as the Choder, who are part of my being at this point. I'll have to have them disassociate from me. I'll have to have all the Malak who have protected me over these. It will be now 32 years, as I have received thousands and thousands of death threats and all manner of difficult situations that have all been deflected. They're going to have to stand down. Hasatan is going to get to do what he wants to do most of all, because I'm the one who ruined his plans. And he gets to bludgeon me to death. And it's no big deal because it's my body. I have no use for it at that point. I'm going to rise, as Yahweh has said, immediately thereafter. And so it'll be good riddance to be rid of that body. But he's going to have a field day with it. And he's in Ezekiel, he actually tells us that his intent is to drink my blood, though he is not going to get all of it. Eliah gets the first cut, and he's going to eat my flesh. It's called the Feast of the Beast.
Pretty grotesque.
Then Leah gets to beat him up, and he gets sent sent to Sheol. And at that point, my body, as the red heifer, as the Adamah Parah, this productive red man of the earth, is put in the altar. The altar has these 2 horns on the 4 corners. 2 represent Dod as the ram, and myself as the bull. Put in that altar. It will be in front of the colonnade, and it will face east to the Mount of Olives, and it is there that Yahweh is going to release copious amounts of water from underneath it that will cascade down and cleanse his people. He's going to ignite a fire that is going to turn the body into ash as part of the remedy for the adulterous woman. The flames are going to leap to heaven. They're going to also purge guilt of his people as they incinerate their enemies. And Eliah is going to be the master of ceremony for what is going to be the greatest show on earth. It's going to be a spectacular situation. That is what is being described here. And at this point, it is still the tent of the witness that is serving as the elam, this open patio. And it's in fact, I probably should have translated it slightly different. It's elam is the open patio approach to Yahweh's home. It is from alam, which is to retie the knot and to be reconnected. This is really is the ropes that are going to hold the tent of the restoring witness down are going to be in the backdrop, not really a colonnade, and it's going to be the tent of the restoring witness, which is going to be gorgeous. and you just see it in the breeze there. And this altar that was the very one that Solomon stood upon as he announced the arrival of the Nachri 3,000 years ago on a Towrah, on exactly the same day of the year. It was on a Towrah that he made this pronouncement about the Nachri, and there's the Nachri that's going to be in this altar, and having offered this sacrifice, and Yahweh's going to ignite the flames, and those who are attending are going to do so with weepy eyes, because they'll know, really all that is happening here. And everyone that is going to be associated with this, including the ultimate priest on this moment, which is going to be Elia, are going to be serving Yahweh. They are going to be attending to the business affairs of Yahweh. And they will say, "You have emphatically chosen Yahweh. As we have requested and demonstrated, you have chosen to be compassionate and merciful and to spare and provide deliverance for your people." And then they repeat Yahweh's name. So that is the sacrifice of the red heifer. We've gone through the Shabuah, Qatsyr of mature individuals in the covenant family who are set apart. We've gone through the Teruah Lakat, this ingathering of the young members of the covenant. And here we now have the sacrifice of the Adamah Parah occurring before those strands that will be holding, the ropes that will be holding the tent of the restoring witness down, as the sacrifice is made of the Adamah Parah for all to see, all to spare and provide deliverance for the children of Yisrael, this final remnant.
Isn't Yahweh wonderful?
Yeah, he's doing. He's told us what he's going to do, and he's doing what he said he was going to do. And he found some people that were willing to go along with his program, and I'm willing to make the sacrifice. No sacrifice, really. It's an honor to have been chosen and trusted to do this. And my wife's going to have a grand time of taking Satan to task for having done what he has to do. And I've even had people say, so if Satan doesn't take your life, then the sacrifice, the Adamah Parah, does not occur, and we're Israel is left unresolved. And it's just a lack of understanding who Satan actually is.
Yeah.
The adversary was created by Yahweh.
Yep.
He was created for this purpose. Well, not just this purpose, but for the purpose of creating the religious alternative to him, to Yahweh. He is the adversary creating the religious alternative to Yahweh.
In the same way that Aaron is the alternative.
Yes.
In the same way that Mariam.
Mm-hmm.
His cohort.
Yeah, all true. And so Satan is going to do as he was actually programmed to do.
Yeah.
He is going to
he's like one of those bad little bots.
It's just like the demons of Rome that crucified Dode in 33 CE. They did what they were programmed to do.
Kill.
So here we are. That is exactly what is going to happen. So now we have property, and there is an inheritance. Yahweh offered Yisrael an inheritance, and he's also offered an inheritance to those who are serving the children of Israel at this time. So that dude that gets flambéed there in the altar, he comes out pretty well on this, because Yahweh says he inherits the wealth of his enemies.
Oh,
and I got some really good enemies, so I
got something to say about that,
in
because I know some of the Saudi royal family from years ago, back many decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I have seen their gregarious wealth.
Mm-hmm.
It's shocking. After that, nothing in the world could impress me. Not European, not American. It pales in comparison.
You're going to have to deal out
all of those people. Well, if you put the Christians, the rabbinical types, and the Muslims all together, we are the most hated couple on the planet.
Yeah, well,
and that's going to work in our favor.
But we're getting, so long as they're fumigated and
Yeah.
deloused and the like, then
Sanitize.
there'll be some. Listen, we're going to be on this earth for 1,000 years. I'm sure we're going to have vacations off planet, but
we might have matching yachts at some point.
So we're going to have vacation, and so the everything that's in this world will be ours to enjoy. And Yahweh wants his family to have fun. Yeah, there's work to do. We got to teach the mortal remnant of Israel to get their act together and to respect Yahweh, to honor the decrees of their king, to appreciate what he has done for us, and to move to the direction of the covenant. And there's going to be many, many Gentiles who will be gathered from around the earth, whose attitudes and attributes are conducive to working and serving during this 1,000-year time. And they're going to have an opportunity to learn and to grow as well. And so we're going to be doing the YAHOWah blog for a good long time during this period. So there'll be work to be done.
And there's a big difference between us today and us, future us. And that is that the Torah will be written on, on us, on our, emblazoned on our soul.
Yeah. And well, I think, we don't think, we know that to be true, that the Torah will be written inside of us so that we all have an accurate and complete copy of it. It really gets back to the battle I have had with so many people over the years. I have been asked many times, can't you just translate it and give us the translation and be done with it, and not burden us with all, they don't use burden, but with all the commentary. And I say, no, absolutely not. The Torah has been available to us for 3,000 years, and no one's understood it. So the fact that I'm giving you a more complete, more accurate translation based upon the corrections of the Dead Sea Scrolls, and also removing all the Masoretic diacritical markings so that we don't have the religious influence anymore. So I'm giving you a more complete and accurate translation, and that's a nice step in the right direction. But I'm here to tell you that we've gone 3,500 plus years and no one has understood it. So, and that's true also of the prophets. Yes. So the commentary is not just important in terms of explaining it so people understand it. Essential. It's as important as the text itself.
No, it's essential. It's absolutely essential. Yeah.
So
Jews have been carrying around the Torah for how long? We have died and bled over the Torah, and we've understood nothing about it.
You carry it around like it's a whore, and you dress it up and kiss it and fondle it.
Yes,
but
you got no idea, but get
no idea what it actually says.
Nothing.
And so
without his commentary, none of you would come any closer to knowing Yahweh or the truth.
That is correct.
That is the end of the story, Morning Glory.
Yeah, you wouldn't know that Dode is the Messiah and the one who fulfilled Pesach, Masa, and Bekurim. It just wouldn't know any of these things if there wasn't for the insights, the commentary, and the insights, the BN that has been empowered through both study and the 7 Ruach of Yahweh is the thing that is also going to propel the mortal remnant of Israel, as well as the Goyim who are here to work and serve. So they transition from what is complete ignorance to knowing, and from knowing to understanding, and from understanding to accepting and benefiting. So can
we go, first of all, look, Israel as a nation, clueless. Individually, here's a chance, just like anyone else. However, without the commentary that is essential to the understanding, the Ruach of what? Bien. Yahweh's Ruach is one of the Ruachs. The Ruach of Bien and Chokhmah are another. More. Like, where does it say that Israel, you need to listen to him and do as he says? Where is that in the Torah? I'm bad at addresses.
It's in Chronicles, 2nd Chronicles 6, where it says specifically of the Anachri that Israel needs to not only listen to him, but do everything he asks of you. This would be an example. So here is some commentary introducing a passage, and then you can see the bold text here with the in the parenthetical, it has the Hebrew terms that you can look up and validate. And here, all this is again a literal and amplified translation of the Torah from the Dead Sea Scrolls, removed with the scrubbed of the diacritical markings, and then here's commentary on on that passage, so that there's a much better opportunity to understand what it says. And then we go back into another passage here. So it is
not only can you understand it, he's very open and transparent with his translations. You get it in Hebrew and in English.
And part of it too is, okay, here's a word. That word could have a number of different meanings. Let's take yare. Yare can mean respect and reverence, to be awestruck and to be appreciative of somebody. But it can also mean to be fearful of them, terrified of them, and afraid of them. And so context is what determines how yare is going to be rendered. Another word would be ana. Ana is a very important verb, and like yare, and it has a dark and a light side. Its primary meaning is to respond, to reply, and to answer. And its tertiary meanings would be to afflict, to abase, if you will. And so context, again, tells you which of these two meanings you have to ascribe to the word. And so in the translation, I'll pick the one that is the most, or the two or three that are the most relevant for that statement. But I'll be careful to, in the commentary, to say, this is the nature of this word, and it can be in different contexts. This, and this are also potential definitions of the word. There are some times we come up to a word that turns out to be essential to our understanding. A word that, I'm going to say a word now that is mentioned only in relationship in Judaism. It's mentioned only in relationship to the Passover meal, and it's not understood there. It's called zeroah. And the rabbis will throw a zeroah on the plate, which is a lamb bone. And what they miss is that zeroah.
The lamb, they miss the lamb for the bone.
Yeah. What they miss is that zeroah happens to be one of the most important titles used by Yahweh.
Yeah.
There are three men, and only three men, who are called zeroah. Mm-hmm. Moshe is called a zeroah, Dod is called a zeroah, and Yada is called a zeroah. And zeroah has numerous meanings that can be deduced from it based upon the circumstance in which it is used. For Dod, it is the Torah's definition of zeroah that applies. The Torah defines zeroah as the sacrificial lamb. Dod was the sacrificial lamb who fulfilled Pesach. That's why he's the most important of the zeroah. As it relates to me, you go to the verbal root of zeroah, which is part of the insights that I share in these books. Zeroah is based on the verbal root zerah. Zerah means to sow seeds which grow, which take root and become productive for a harvest. So as the final zeroah, my job is to sow the seeds which take root and grow so that I can cultivate a productive harvest on Shabuah and Teruah. So there's just so much we can learn from every word, and that is the gift that God has provided to his people through these books. That is why they are long, but it's also why they're so daggone exciting, because there's just so much to learn. It's why these programs turn out to be so much fun, is that we have the opportunity to talk about many thousands of things, all of which are jewels in Yahweh's crown. And that crown should be near and dear to you, because that crown is not only being placed on our king's head, Dod, but he's sharing it with us. So we're all royalty. And these are the things that we need to learn. Okay, so it says, and do not allow your property which was offered as an inheritance to become contemptible or dishonest, an object of scorn, which is jeopardized. All right, so you've got a number of things here. The most important of those is, what is the inheritance, the primary inheritance of the covenant? What is that, Leah?
We are the inheritance, the children.
No.
No? You think the land?
Yeah, the land. The land is the primary inheritance of the covenant, the land of Israel. And so the land of Israel has been coveted by people called Phakistinians.
Yeah.
Phakistinian is a slur. It's an ethnic slur. It was conceived by Hadrian as he was torturing Jews to death for his jollies. He was such a sadistic bastard that as he was burning literate Jews alive, wrapped in kerosene-soaked Torah scrolls, he demanded to know who was the most repulsive enemy of the Jews, and the answer was the Philistines. And he says, great, I'm going to rename Judea Philistia. And out of that ethnic slur, out of that genocidal slogan of a bastard of a man, the British were the ones who said, yeah, we're anti-Semites too. We'll keep and use that term as opposed to Judea and Israel. And then in the 1960s, Marxists from Soviet Russia, the KGB, and Muslims from the Muslim Brotherhood got together in Egypt, which was a country that was arming itself with Russian weapons. At the time, Israel bought some weapons from France, but didn't get weapons from the United States or anybody else. But most of the Islamic world bought their weapons from Russia, and they had lost the War of Independence. So having lost the 1948 war, they were, then as a strategy to help them in their 1966 Six-Day War, where they didn't know it was going to be a six-day war at the time, but they met to come up with this myth of Palestine. So all they did is resurrect Hadrian's ethnic slur. And then when they lost the Six-Day War, they brought in Yasser Arafat, an Egyptian, somebody they could control easily because he was also gay, and that's an embarrassment in the Islamic world. So they had a way to control him, and he dusted off the kippah, the old hat, and
the Iraqi keffiyeh.
Yeah, keffiyeh
From Iraq.
Both Iraq, and it was also worn in the Ottoman Empire. If you wore that, then you were a lowlife. You were somebody that couldn't enter the cities, and it was used to keep the sun off your head as you were out tending sheep or toiling in the soil. And they dusted it. Then they stole the Jordanian flag, removed its star, and they renamed the Jordanians and the Egyptian Muslims that were still anywhere around the land of Israel. They renamed them Palestinians after that old racial slur. And so over the next couple of weeks, we're going to see Donald Trump move to establish a Palestinian state and betraying Israel in the process. And Israel will become indefensible. And so this is the covetousness of Muslims. They do not want a two-state solution. They want to destroy Israel, and Israel becomes easier to destroy with a terrorist state of Islam carved out of its heart. So the land has been desired, and they, from the river to the sea means kill every Jew and wipe Israel off the map and give it to the genocidal Muslims is what that means. So this is an interesting prophecy. There are slogans to determine who controls it, is what the prophet said. Quoted expressions which make comparisons to designate who owns the land. So
from the river to the sea.
This is a prophecy that is, we see its specific fulfillment in all of the marches and protests by Marxists and Muslims around the world.
Vile and
exactly
disgusting.
As it was foretold.
Yeah, so, God's got your number.
So God's got their number.
He's got your number.
So why should they constantly say among the people, where is their God? Now, well, one of the reasons they say that is because the rabbis and Jewish religious ilk removed God's name from his testimony.
Nameless God.
Had they not removed and erased God's name from their testimony, there would be no Islam. There would be no debate over who has the land.
No.
Wouldn't exist. And there would be no Christianity either, because if Yahweh's name was kept in the Torah and prophets, there would be no room for Jesus, just as there'd be no room for an Allah. And it would be obvious that Allah was not God and that Jesus was not God, because Yahweh's name had been retained. So they brought all of this on themselves by erasing Yahweh's name, and they're still estranged from Yahweh by continuing to write God's name out of their lives.
Yes, when you have a nameless God, why shouldn't they say that?
So, yes, he has a nameless God. So where is your God?
Yeah, where is your God?
And by the way,
What's his name?
What do you think Allahu Akbar means?
Allah's a mouse?
And no, well, it does mean Allah's a mouse, but that's not what they think it means. Allahu Akbar means that Allah is greater than whom? Oh, it was first yelled at the Jews of Kabar.
It was yelled at the Jews of
as they were setting the dress rehearsal for what happened on October 7th. The first Muslims yelled Allahu Akbar at the Jews. Meant that Allah is greater than Yahweh is what it means.
Mm-hmm.
So every time you hear Allahu Akbar, it is saying, so where's your God? My God is here. He's raping you and killing you and enslaving you. Where's your God?
Mm-hmm. Every time a Muslim prays in the streets in the West, or buys a church and builds a mosque there, they're saying the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We've come to take this territory over.
Mm-hmm.
And they have done this throughout the Middle East. They've used this Marxist alliance, and it has worked in that entire Middle East used to be Christian.
Everything from Pakistan to Morocco.
Everything.
It's been colonialized by the Muslims in the most
It is a template that has worked
fashion.
well for the Musulman. It is a template that has worked very, very well. It's very successful. We see it, in fact, happening in Europe and the West.
Stop it. It's not successful. They've killed 200 million people.
Yeah.
They massacred 1/3 of the Earth's population in the first 100 years of Islam. That isn't successful. It's disgraceful. And the very fact that you've got Marxists out there pretending that the Jews have been the colonializers, when in fact it is the Muslims, and they colonized the world, everything from Pakistan to Morocco, which they still control, enslaving, raping, and murdering 200 million people, 1/3 of the Earth's population. And Islam was literally created to kill.
Yeah.
Allah's goal through Islam is the annihilation of humankind.
Mm-hmm. And with the Muslim Marxist alliance, who do you think are the first to die? The Marxists.
Well, of course, but I don't even care. You're stupid enough to promote Islam. I do not care that it kills you. Do not care. In fact, I don't even care who the Muslims kill at this point, so long as it's not Jews. And I'm saddened for Jews because they think they're fighting Hamas and Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad and Iran, and they think they're on a 7-front war, and they're just not bright enough, unfortunately, to recognize, no, it's a 1-front war. Islam. They're fighting Islam, and Allah's Islam is to have Satan be worshipped as if he were God. And they don't understand that, and because they haven't read goddamn religion and haven't availed themselves of the insights that it provides, they're lashing out at symptoms. They have now lost the last 2 wars, and it's the future is devastating for Israel as a consequence. And the only silver lining in all this cloud is that after 3,700 years of being, or 3,500 years, I should say, of being miserable
contentious
against God, they're going to have no one else to turn to. Their IDF will fail them. Their politicians will fail them. The rabbis, of course, have always failed them. And so desperate is the condition that will finally cause them to turn to Yahweh and be receptive to what this prophet is saying. So that is the silver lining to all of this. So I'm sorry to say I'm to get short there with you, but I am so angry at the world.
Good point.
For looking at the success of Islam when that success cost the lives of 1/3 of the human beings on this planet, as there was a river of blood from Muhammad's feet all the way to Morocco. And at the time, by the way, there was not a drop of ink. There was no Quran.
Nope.
Strictly.
It was pure bloodlust. Pure unadulterated bloodlust.
Plundering, raping, killing.
By the time they got to India, the women were so horrified they lit themselves on fire rather than to be captured.
This is that Islam that is being promoted, where the Democratic candidate for governor of
the New York
City,
mayor,
our mayor of New York City. It's just astonishing how young people have absolutely no functional conscience and are ignorant and irrational, and what they will support, having no concept of history, and all of the deaths that are the result of Islam. It's the deadliest dogma in human history. Even worse than Marxism, which comes in second. Marxists have killed all total about 170 million people, and Muslims have killed all total over this period of time about 250 million people. So it is an alliance. This red-green alliance is between the two deadliest dogmas in human history, responsible for the deaths of 400 million people. You should be so proud.
Unimaginable.
Mislabeling Israel as Palestine, claiming that it is illegally occupied, that it belongs to the Palestinians, is the epitome of contemptible. And these lies have become slogans as to who inherits God's land. As for the question which will be posed by many as Israel is overrun, it will be resoundingly answered upon Yahweh's return. But for those who asked, it will be, if you have to ask, you're just not going to be around to hear God's response. You're going to have to get your act together sooner than that. It's one of the things that I have such a trouble with, and when I go into social media, and even Jews that are stalwarts for Israel will still use the name Palestinian. And I said, it's suicidal for you to use that word.
True. We're reinforcing a lie.
Yeah.
There is no such thing or person called Palestine.
Yeah. They're also, though, showing pictures of Gaza's destruction and cheering, saying, they blow up another building. And I understand that what happened on 10/7 was gruesome. But every time that Israel blows up another building and kills more people, it just turns more of the world against them. It's a suicidal act at this point. And there's cheering the Iran war because their prime minister didn't have the character to tell them that they lost, and that they begged the United States to enter so that there was a truce and a ceasefire. Otherwise, Israel would have been destroyed, would not have made it even to the end, as the story is told through the prophets. So as a result of Yada Yahowah, and due to the work of the covenant family, Yisrael is finally coming to appreciate Dod's sacrifice during the Chag Matzah period in 4000 33 CE, which is inclusive, of course, of Pesach, Matzah, and Bakurim. And they're beginning to understand how it enables them to return to Yahweh, such that they are now welcoming him into their lives and are welcome in his presence within the covenant family and home. Now, affirming these profound realizations, those who have been working with Yahweh will acknowledge that well, this has been God's desire all along. And making his will come true is, well, the motivation that we have to serve him in this regard. It's the motivation for the YAHOWAH blog. Over the course of the harvest, this gleaning, and the ultimate reunion, we're going to have mature members of the covenant, some adolescents in the covenant, and we're going to have some mortal remnants that are all going to be celebrating this wonderful time with YAHOWAH. And so this has been just another extraordinary experience in the prophets, where the more you come to have an appreciation of how the whole picture that YAHOWAH has painted fits together, and you have this proper perspective on it, and know what God is going to accomplish with whom, where, and when, every word becomes special. It becomes another diamond in this beautiful crown. And so I'm glad you had this opportunity to celebrate the jewels that YAHOWAH has laid before us through his prophets. So thank you, Leah, for participating. Thank you, Rich, for producing this program. And for the moment he's looking now back into the door, I think Wookie just has an attention span thing, but he was in this show longer than he was in the one downstairs. So we thank you too, Wookie. And we wish you a wonderful rest of the evening. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Thank you for listening to the YAHOWAH blog. I am Yada, Craig Winn.